conversation me, Kelly, and Jason have been having. We're going to continue it without any, with it being seamless. We're just discussing really how much value programs like this can bring to so many people and how much it can bring back to us. This program's all based on you and your direction. So chat's open. Whoever starts first could really support what we're trying to do here and really give us an opportunity to be relevant to you and the issues of the now that you might have. With that said, I want to introduce Jason, who's our second timer and a great guy, really just full of joy and a desire to help people. And then Kelly's here, and Kelly, she's here all the time and for good reason because she brings so much value and herself to the program. So since Jason is the, let's say, guest of the day, and me and Kelly are more co-hosts, Jason, why don't you share a little bit about who you are to the people who don't know you and a little bit of what you think about shows like this and what it could mean.
Okay, thank you so much, first of all, Don, for having me back on the show. Every time I'm here, it's a wonderful experience, so I thank you very much. And it's so nice to be here with Kelly as well. Kelly is a wonderful woman, nice friend, and I enjoy talking to her all the time on LinkedIn. So I'm Jason Wilson. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, originally, but I've been living here in Columbia for the past 20 years. And it's been a wonderful experience living here, just to adjust to the culture, the language. Every day it's a new challenge. So I really, really enjoy living here. And so I'm a mental wellness advocate. My organization is Circle of Friends Club, and we're currently working on some exciting things for this year. I would love to connect future clients of mental health issues to the correct coach or therapist. So I'm working on that and some other things along those lines. So that's what I do. And besides that, I'm a podcast producer and a podcast host myself. My podcast is called Victory Circle Podcast.
Well, great. I met Jason because of this. Right? And everybody on the show right now in the audience is because of this. It came from LinkedIn Live, and it attracts the kind of people that we're seeing here: respectable, respectful, people who are used to and enjoy giving. It's not a hardship for them or a challenge. It's actually more of an impulse, that they feel that giving is the best way for people to get, but it's also the best way for you to get back when people are ready to give back, right? So it's really about empowerment. That's why we call this Hour of Empower. Kelly, you've been here more than anybody else. What's your thoughts on the audience and what this is leading to? And love to hear.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're coming in from. First of all, I have to just go on the fact of this show has been about human connection and about mindset and how people have connected. And this is just such a prime example. Jason and I met through here. We had a call off screen or together on Zoom. Fantastic conversation. He's doing amazing work. Bless him for what he does and what he dedicates to. I love it, support it. And that's another part of this. And we're friends. Like, it's not even just that, oh, I've got another LinkedIn connection. Like, I consider him my friend. I adore him. I was giddy last night, seriously, when I was like, I'm going to be on with Jason tomorrow. Because it's so exciting to support people and just have those true connections and not just this, the garbage that people put in some of the comments, on our outside posts, because they're trying to be who they think the other person wants them to be. And here we're getting to know people behind the profile. And I think it's just awesome. And I love that it's highlighting people who are doing work like Jason, because it's important and it is so needed, particularly now. And I'm not saying it wasn't needed, 2 weeks ago, but the world needs more of what Jason is putting out there. And I'm truly honored and blessed, not just to be here with him, but to call him friend. Like, how great is that?
Well, and how do you put a value on that? People are so into majoring in the minors, walking over dollars to pick up pennies instead of really paying attention to the true value of people is them, is their knowledge, is their experience, is their support. You have help everywhere, but people can't get out of their own way, and I think when people can start with a program like this where all it takes is listen. You can be in the back row next to the door and be the first one out if it's not working out for you. But if you allow your ears to open, right, and then your eyes to see, you'll find out that this is a safe place because of the people it attracts and the people we try to support versus just a crowd. And like Kelly said, quantitative numbers, vanity numbers. How many friends can you support is the question, not how many friends can you have, right? You can make 100 great friends today on LinkedIn, just like this, if you go about what this program projects and represents. This is a message. This is more than a program. And it's a message that's universal and has been time tested and proven. People love to be loved. They love to be liked. They love to be respected. They love to be mentored. They love to be with people. How easy is that? If you just start where you are and don't add any of the outside stuff to it, this could resonate to 10% of the LinkedIn at least. That's 90 million people could be watching this next week if they knew about it. Right? So our role is to make people aware, open their eyes, at least give them options, choices, and an opportunity to help themselves. So it's not just listening, learning, and seeing. It's now doing what you're listening, learning, and seeing, and put it into practical use. And with that said, let me introduce the main star of the show, which is the audience.
Yes.
Christy is just great, here almost every day. Always brings love and kindness. Kim has been just recently, but showing up every day. Thank you so much, Kim. Happy terrific Tuesday to you and everyone also. Charles came a diamond in the rough, even though I've known Charles for years and tagged Charles and corresponded with Charles. There was never an opportunity we could actually meet and go shoulder to shoulder like we are here. And Charles stepped forward last week on co-hosting Saturday and Sunday was great, but also was great for him. This is definitely a place where it's win, win, win. No one has to lose and everybody can win big together. We're dealing with so much abundance. Dennis is here. Dennis is our rhymer. Meeting today will be joyful and valueful. Well, you got the two fulls matching. Mike is here. I haven't seen Mike in a while. Hello from Matthews, North Carolina, USA. Thanks. Jason, you might know Mike. Maybe not.
No, I haven't met Mike yet.
Up and down. Christine. Hi, Kelly. Hola. Jason.
Hola.
Is that how you say it?
Hola?
Hola.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hola, mi amiga.
Value is what I get here, Faith Michael says. Well, thank you, because you bring value when you bring yourself here too. Paul's always here or whenever he can.
Hey,
Great
Paul.
guy. He's made about 5 introductions to me this week with some great people. And that's what I'm saying. Start passing the food around, start sharing. I always say, look at this like a picnic. What are you going to bring to make a meal for everybody when everybody brings something? And you don't want to bring the cheapest potato salad and then hoard it. Not even pass it around. So when you got some good, share it. I mean, that's the value connections are supposed to bring, is make people aware of things they might not be aware of, help people get to places they might not get on their own or take longer. Don't hold it in. You'll get more. I received some great news today. My company is adopting unlimited PTO to attract top talent, honor mental health. I'm so blessed. You
That's
know,
great.
Christine, everything in time, and patience has its value. Kim Wheatley Morris says, hello, Kelly, Jason, Don, looking forward to another great hour of connection. This is, to me, this is like 200 straight hours of connection, and you build on yesterday because no one has time to forget about it, right? So the more consistent you are, the more not only consistent in timing, but messaging, right? You don't want to be talking about this today and something else tomorrow because you confuse everybody. When everybody's in the right, comfortable spot, you don't want to move anything. You just want to continue to share and allow people to receive. Hey, Christy, we got so many friendships within the group, right?
Yeah.
And that was what it was meant to be, is everybody should be one of many instead of one too many. What's your thoughts, Jason? Great interaction.
I mean, the last one with I'm sorry, what's his name? Charles?
Yeah.
Charles. You saw Charles?
Yes. I mean, I've never seen that much engagement ever on your live. I mean, it was awesome.
It was awesome. I loved that show.
It was.
It was just
yeah.
And what for those of you still maybe who are new and don't know, like, we don't script anything. It truly is driven based off of a comment can take the conversation in a totally different direction. And it was just one of those days, at least for me, and I want to piggyback on what you said. I don't know which way you're on the screen for me, Don, is that this show is just as much for us as it is for everyone else. Like, this fills me beyond what I can say. It can take me when I'm not feeling my best and helps me reset and be, back on track. Fill up, as Don would say. I mean, this definitely fills my joy tank when I need it. But Charles, the interesting thing there was just this amazing synergy of, like, he would say things that it was like, you couldn't have teed that up better for what, he had no idea I was going to go be with my mentee on Saturday. I mean, there was just so many things, and he has a cool vibe, great advice. He's got amazing quotes. Like, he could be our second book, Don. After it could be a book of Charles quotes, because he always has one that matches exactly what's being talked about. And he's funny. I mean, he had some super great comments. So that was so exciting to see. But it also, I think, opens up for other people who came for the first time and see that. I highlighted that show on my profile for that reason. Like, hey, this is what it's about. This is what we're doing, and why I was asking about the snippets too, because I don't know that people, when they come in, I feel like they end up staying. It's like, I'll check it out, and then they come back and they come back and they come back. Because at first it's like, oh, I don't have an hour to carve out of my day. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, I carve out this hour every day. If I'm not watching it, I'm listening to it. And if I miss it for an overlap in scheduling on something, I go back and I listen, because I want to know who's coming here. I want to see what they have to say, because some of the new folks that we've been having on lately, Don, are incredible. And the fact that Charles came back on Sunday, like, that just made me so happy. And he's a natural. I mean, let's just be honest. But I feel the other part of it too is LinkedIn Live isn't as scary as what people think it is. Like, I know I was a little nervous about it because I was like, oh my God, it's live. What if I screw up? You can't screw up having a conversation, because that's all we're doing.
Right.
Well, and especially if the conversation is already intended and meant for positivity, for uplift, for empowerment. Anybody can tell their worst story, their worst tragedy. And then someone, like I say, says, I got hit by a bus, and someone says, well, I got hit by 2 buses. There is no competition. The key is how do you take tragedy to triumph? People want to hear that story. There's nothing wrong with telling people where you started, your before picture.
Yeah.
Right? Here's where I was. Here's what I was dealing with. Here's what happened. Here's what I did. Here's what I learned. Here's what I became from it. Now everybody can get the benefit without the downside. And the other thing, to Charles's point, is Charles is just a real professional, because to Kelly's point and Jason's point, if you look at that LinkedIn Live, Charles was about 25% of the comments during the thing. So he continued to comment, and what was even terrific and reinstilled in me, which I kind of strayed a little bit, after the show, he responded to every comment, and there were 100 comments.
I
And
try to do that too most of the time. Just
I always like everybody, and then I do try to pick out one thing from one person, because like Ambambola will put 12 things.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I recognize her at least one. I can't come up with 12, that it could be much different than the one. And you do try to template it at times, but it's learning from each other. So what I learned from Charles during the show, after the show, and what was even more incredible, Charles, there was no intention of having him on Sunday.
No,
it was actually Sarah Dawkins' day.
Yeah.
And because she's every other Sunday, and Charles said, with about 8 minutes to go, if you want, I'd be happy to co-host again. And I said, great, and and meanwhile Sarah's coming on and probably knows nothing about this, right? But what it turned out, because of daylight savings time, there was a 2-hour disparity between what she was thinking, I was thinking, even though I sent her a confirmation the night before, the morning of, but it was my fault. So she never showed up for the beginning, and Charles did. And Charles kind of carried the program for 35 minutes, and then Sarah came and still had about 45 minutes. So it just shows you that things that happen like a serendipity, that from nowhere someone says, let's do something, and you never planned on, say, yeah, okay, sure, let's see how it works out. I think if anything, that shows, it should promote everybody saying, what is something important to me that only a little thing is stopping me from manifesting, right? Is it just a call? Is it a visit? Whatever it is, not Charles, I keep talking about Charles now. Jason, let's get back to the people here and the people who are there. So, Jason, thoughts?
My thoughts on Charles?
No, your thoughts on just being able to empower people. What is your primary vehicle to get people in gear?
Well, I think, just featuring all the guests from my podcast shows, as well as everybody that I produce as well. It's never about me. It's always about how it is that I can support other people in my community, how it is that I can connect other people. That's my superpower, and that's what I enjoy doing. So, yeah.
Love it. And it's so interesting because Jason saying the exact same thing we say here. It's not about us. It's about everyone else. And I think
Right.
one of the reasons it resonates so much, and I know the reason that I was drawn into it and still continue to participate and love it, and am honored to be here, is because in a world that has taught everyone to be about me, me, selfie, we want more of what can I give you, with nothing in return. Like it's not doing things because I expect something back. When I'm saying, we're not, as an example, Jason doesn't do what he does for the sake of getting something back. It's truly to help someone else. And that's the end game. And I know I say this every show, it's because of this community, which we're human beings, and this is what we need. We need community, and that's what we long for. And this community allows support for people to feel safe and to exceed what they ever thought they could do. Because when you're surrounded with a support group that allows you to feel safe, man, you're unstoppable, for one. And then it always goes back to the, international, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, we all need love. And that's what it is at the core. And it's wonderful to hear, like Jason said earlier, you know, doing his podcast, being part of this community or wherever the exposure, he's getting clients come to him. And then that's part of the, you know, how it all works is you need to give to get, but don't give because that's your goal to get. It's about the relationship, the connection, and not the transaction. And I think that's part of what is so powerful here and why it resonates with so many people in so many places. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Yes, I totally agree with you. And you know, from people that I've met on this show, like you, Kelly and Christy, I made it a point to schedule appointments with you guys and meet you face to face. And you know, I can honestly say that I can't think of any other platform where you feel safe to do that
That's
on
right.
a daily basis. Um,
Yes, I
but
feel
I mean,
out if I get hey, let's jump on a quick Zoom, and it's like,
yeah,
well, why don't I know a little bit more about what you do first? But it doesn't this whole platform and this show, it makes everyone feel pre-vetted, right? So it's like, oh, you're from the show, absolutely, I'll
right.
jump on a Zoom call, and every single one I've been on has been a value, has, you know, left me also feeling better when I left than when I arrived. But they've created those connections of, I mean, if I know someone who needs financial advice, I'll be like, you need to be connected with Paul, like bar none. He gets,
Yeah.
And vice versa with anyone else. I feel so comfortable referring people because we're pre-vetted in some way, and it truly is, I'll say, magical, because it's so organically happened, and it's just been so awesome to watch and see these relationships grow with people, and in the comments, and new people coming constantly, and the regulars who are here I just adore. Don, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, you know, curation means everything,
Yeah.
right? You know, is who do you talk to? You know, there's so many conversations after this show with people. Like, just I want to highlight what Paul said. Is I saw Brian's coming on Saturday, Don. Excited to have him in the community. Well, Paul introduced me to Brian. I had a very long call with Brian. My calls with people are usually an hour or more. My first
Yeah.
calls, right? Because you know, I'm there, right? So you go somewhere, you want to see whatever is there and get as much information and share as much information for common ground.
Yeah.
Anyways, talk to Brian. Just an amazing story. Was an MD for 15 or 20 years, sold his practice, went and his parents had a plumbing and heating supply. He's a Texan all his life and even has Texan on his profile. Anyways, had to help him out, run the business, and he ended up selling the business. And now he's in a position where he can do pretty much what he wants. And he sees what we're doing and how we're doing is a leap beyond, based on the ability to get visibility. And here's the beauty of this visibility. It's not someone waving their resume or a couple pieces of paper up in the air. People are getting to be known for who they are, not what they are, right? Take away the titles, take away the letters. You know, what is somebody's intention? What is somebody's heart? What is somebody's ability to share, right? Why not go with someone who can more than supply whatever you need? Right? You go in a grocery store, they got more food than you could ever eat that day. You never think of it that way. You only think about how much you're spending and what are you getting, right? But in the whole universe, there's so much more to it. And now these people are ambitious. These are the people who took a step, who are diving in, who are seeing the water's fine and don't want to go back to where it wasn't with people who weren't. You know, and it's just like I keep saying, it's as simple as a redirection of thought, redirection of relationships, and redirection of activities, right? So if you keep shuffling, you know, if you had a deck of cards and they say pick out your hand, you get a royal flush every time. Why not pick out that hand? And I talk about having your 5 board of directors.
Yeah.
4 to 5 go-to people that, hey, if you've got something important, you want to gather them around or individually and say, hey, what do you think? Why be it alone?
Mm.
You know, worst case, say, well, thanks for the opinion, and I'll weigh it, right? But you have that power again. Every minute of the day can be applied to something that gets you moving in your direction and not moving in somebody else's, because that's the challenge of LinkedIn. It's so easy to get distracted by negativity, by overabundance of unsolicited messages, you know, all that stuff. So how do you continue, Jason, to build and deal with everything else as you're building?
Well, I think for me, when it comes to getting clients from LinkedIn, it's all referrals, and I always try to over give and overperform, and going beyond the call of duty. I get that from Napoleon Hill. Um, he said that always go beyond what you've been called to do, and if you do that on a consistent basis, you're going to attract the thing in return that
Mhm.
you're giving out. So let's say that it's time, and if you're constantly giving your time, well, you're going to get time back that you're probably missing in some areas. If it's money, it works exactly the same way. I talked to Paul last week, and I mean, this guy is phenomenal. If you have any need for financial services, like Kelly said, I mean, I recommend this guy bar none. He gives his time in ways that, to some people it doesn't make any sense, but to me it makes perfect sense. He's giving the thing that he wants to receive in return, which is kindness, uh referrals. I mean, whatever it is that he needs business wise, he's going to get, because just a phenomenal person.
Well,
I
that's a
think
great viewpoint, because most people don't appreciate how valuable what they do for others is to others. And it just takes those others to save up or have a reserve or have an opportunity to give back. So it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And
Mhm.
the other thing about monetizing, you hurt yourself when you monetize too early, because now you've just packaged it in that box, right? How much is it a pound? How much is it an hour? And you also limit what you could have done with it, right? So it's like a baby. Let it grow. Let it be natural. And then when it gets stronger, see what it can do for others. And that's why this has been so free flowing. And unlike other programs where they give you a lot of this up front, but then the boom comes down, right? And then reality shows up. And that's why I always tell people, whenever anybody's giving you advice, see how they've taken their advice and acted on it and what they got from it, right? If someone says this will give you 21 miles a gallon, say, let me see the numbers, right? And most people don't question the questioner, right? They just accept the question or they deal with it versus, what did you mean by that? Or, I don't understand that. Can you explain it to me? Because at a certain point, I think what we're doing here is giving people back control, knowing that they never lost it, right? They just took their hands off of the wheel for a while, and now you can jump right back in and make up for lost time, because now you're not the only driver. You know what a road trip is by yourself? Not as much fun as when someone's next to you, depending again on who's next
Yeah.
to you. So what do you think, Kelly?
I mean, I totally agree. I do love a good. I used to do road trips by myself a lot, and I called those therapy. Listening to good music. But you're right. I mean, I road trip with friends, and it's the best. I mean, because you experience things that you normally wouldn't. Um, my friends in my life, thank goodness, I guess, because I'm a big nerd and I'm a child at heart. So I love to be silly and goofy, and I love having people around me that do that. So road trips are definitely a blast. Um, I think just overall with what going off of what Jason was saying, even about Paul, and the part about what he does that's so beautiful, in my opinion, is not just that he is this honest, like, wise soul beyond, is it's the transparency. He's like, I just
Yeah.
want to give you the best information for you to make a decision. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not trying to force, some kind of portfolio diversification on you, or a product within your portfolio. I'm just trying to educate you. And then here's why. Or he can take a lot of these complex items that people think they understand, and he can, and I don't want to say dumb down, but dumb down so the layman can understand. Because there's nothing that feels worse than when somebody's talking at you in the way of they're using all these great big phrases and terminology, and you're sitting there going, I have no understanding of what you're talking about. Now I feel stupid, and now I'm retracted from whatever it is that you're trying to sell, create, do, and now it's over. And also, Don, on yours, with the person that tries to sell right out of the gate, which it happens way too often, in my opinion, on this platform. It's that whole thing of, I used to use this as an example with sales teams and training, would be like, when someone comes, at you fast, what is your first reaction? Is you pull away, because you're like, whoa, man, that's what you do when you're shoving a sale or trying to shove a transaction at somebody right away. You don't even know what I do or what I need yet. And you actually could have missed on a bigger opportunity, because if you took the time to understand where my business is, what my biggest struggles are, what my priorities are, I might be able to go, oh my gosh, I originally thought you only needed social media marketing. Now I think you might need an integrated marketing team. Or, hey, you know what? You don't even need my services at all. I need to send you over to, let me give you a recommendation because this is what I'm thinking. Have a conversation with them. You're opening so many doors just by connecting on the human level. Don, what do you think this way?
Well, I think that everything we're talking about is so valuable on every level, and we've got so many different levels because we have so many different personalities, right? I mean, it's like, you remember in school, I was always the guy with the 8 Crayola crayons, and the girl next to me would have the 64 crayon box, and it had the special silver and gold, that would flip up. And this is like having that full array, like the full benefit of no boundaries, no restrictions, no barriers, nothing that someone has to compensate for that has nothing to do with them, and it's really about relabeling, looking for the kind, looking for the loving, and that's just, what it should be. It shouldn't be special. It's always there, but people are afraid to put it out there because there's dream stealers. To Napoleon Hill, his big quote was, if you want to get real successful, don't listen to friends, families, or neighbors, right? Because they'll always try and keep you where you are. And who are they? That's why people take advice for people who don't deserve to be given advice, let alone the advice be worth anything, because that's why profiles are there. Okay, they're criticizing your post and they haven't posted in 3 months, right? or they're telling you what to do and they've never even done it. So, with 900 million people, how much can any one voice help or hurt you? Not much. But a collective group that you can go out and get the lifeboat from the crowd out there and escape it, and then work shoulder to shoulder to help each other get better in every way. And, this is like watering plants. Some get overwatered, but everybody gets enough water, enough that they can grow today a little bit better. And, there's a saying, the trend is your friend, right? In gambling, if it comes up red 10 times, the bet is either red or nothing, because you will get on those kind of streaks where all of a sudden you find 3 people in a week. And, individuals like Charles, that relationship is just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what really we talk about, Charles must have made an impact. But what was so cool is when Andrea was talking about couch surfing, people in different towns and staying on their couch friends. Charles said, well, come on out to Hong Kong. I got a couch. And then Dean said he would go. So I guess, Charles, you got to buy a second couch. But, that's the fun of this is, you can get entertained, you can get educated, and more importantly, you can get inspired.
Mhm.
And all three, that
Yeah.
when you leave here, you can do the educating, entertaining, and inspiring. Kelly?
I was just gonna, and I say this every time too, I challenge you to come here and you will leave feeling better than you got here. I mean, it just happens that way. And there's so many people, I mean, and I know I've said this in the past, like if I missed one in the morning or something, you know, I couldn't go back and listen, I just sort of feel like, oh, I didn't get my dose, you know, because it helps even in the most simplest things, you know, just I'm in a really good space. I mean, I've got an amazing family and friends and connections. I'm so grateful to be part of this. But I'm human and I still have my days. I had a hard week last week. This helped me just honestly keep my mindset in the right place. And be like, you know, hey, we're just in the trenches right now. And you know, Christy, of course, connects with me and, you know, and messages me and gives me what I need. And I'm like, hey, I'm going through a funk. And it's okay that I was not okay for a couple of days. Just don't live there. Because we're all human. And I really believe that's, again, at the core of what happens here is that everybody's just here supporting each other. There's no judgment. Everybody belongs here. There is no, and there's not been, and I've been on here for 3 months now. I have never seen one negative comment ever. And honestly, that was my original, a little bit of my, you know, ego fear is I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel if somebody like starts, you know, making negative comments about me. But it's LinkedIn. It's not Twitter or other platforms because, you know, people live to be mean for whatever reason, because it's easy to go that direction, to be a critic. Everybody can be a critic. It's much more of an effort to be kind, and it's free. And I think everybody just, you know, you love to have that little bit of a feel like, oh, I feel so good. It's a nice hug. I mean, just, we get on here, 5 minutes before we go live. And honestly, it's just this little like virtual hug that happens before we go live. And it's like, God, this is so great. Just those, you know, 15 seconds makes it worth it. So even if it is something where you can't be here for the full hour, and I've heard other people say this in the comments previously, is I couldn't stay the whole time, but man, I felt great, or I had a valuable takeaway. And how does anything feel better than that? I feel, and this goes back to what you were saying in the very beginning, Dawn, it feeds us just as much. I mean, I feel so good when I leave here. And last Saturday, after with Charles, going to spend the day with my mentee was phenomenal. I was in such an amazing headspace. And of course, we were talking about mentors and leadership coaches, etc. I do it. And there's nothing greater. My mentee said to me on Saturday, there's not a lot of good relationships in their life. And it's bad. I mean, they've gone through things that no human should ever have to go through, let alone a child. And she looked at me later in the day and just said, you know what? I've not had any really good relationships with any adults. You know, her mom is the consistent, loves her. And there's that. She goes, you give me hope. And it's like, I was just saying that because it's like, wow. And all I do with her, because this was part of what we talked about on Saturday, is when you're mentoring anyone, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in business or an at-risk youth, whatever, you're not trying to fix people. It's like, I can't fix what's happened. I can't undo it. I can't change the situation. All I can do is be present and bring love. That's it. And that's what it is. So the space is safe to talk, to be yourself and be unjudged. And those are other things that she said. And I feel like that is what this is people know they can come here no matter what, and they're not being judged. It's a safe place. And, you know, I've not seen one person that's been on here, my opinion, that is not just extremely genuine and giving and truly wanting to help. And it gives me hope to know, because I do believe there's more good in this world than there is bad. And this does that for me. What do you think?
Jason?
Yeah, I'm gonna speak to that. I mean, I met some beautiful people on this platform. Shout out to a few. Cindy, she's here. Hey, Cindy. Uh,
Wonder.
Cindy and I have been, yeah, you're Wonder Twin. So, Cindy and I have been friends for a long time. We met each other back in Atlanta when I was in school. Actually, I was finishing up Morehouse when I met her, and we've been friends ever since. We were out of touch for a while, but now we're back in touch
Love.
and talking to each other every day and talking to each other here on LinkedIn. So it's awesome. Um, Abin Bola, she's here. Hey, how you doing? I mean, I invited her to come. What was it? Maybe like a month ago, Don? And
Mm-hmm.
she's still coming, so it's wonderful to see her. And Dan Suika, I met him yesterday. Dan is a phenomenal guy that has some really exciting things going on business wise. I recommend everybody to connect to him right now. He has this thing called Incredible Products. What he has going on is incredible. So please connect to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've talked to Dan, for hours. We've had about 3-4 calls.
Yeah.
And I'm always fascinated because my background is business. I mean, 37 years owning and being the CEO of all my companies. You can't help but leverage some of that experience. Most of it was in relationship building, because when I started my business, it was person to person. It was, you got to go somewhere to meet somebody, right? There wasn't any internet. There wasn't even faxes back then, but you went to people's offices, you went to community type events, you went to conferences, trade shows, and you learned that you had a chance to meet people person to person, eyeball to eyeball. And a handshake is all you needed to get going, right? It wasn't like, I'm going to send it to my lawyers, get a bunch of documents, and then we're going to negotiate this stuff. It's like, hey, we'll start out this way. And if it works, we'll keep going. If it doesn't, we'll change it. Or we'll say, hey, we tried. And I think that old school now is getting more precious because it's so rare and people have never learned it. A lot of people, it's all been high tech, not high touch.
Yeah.
And when you can marry high touch with high tech, the best of both worlds, and have a platform, without LinkedIn Live, none of this happens. Because if I was producing videos, I'd be having to, Jason knows how much work it is to create one, to edit one,
Yeah.
to invite people to it, to make sure it works for everybody. Where this is as quick as Charles saying, hey, I'm ready to go if you want me, with 8 minutes. And, everybody who can make this better for everybody is the qualification. To Kelly's point, that's why I don't have comments going naturally, because I'm able to choose who I put on the screen. So even if there is a mad bomber out there who wants to disrupt this thing, they're not going to get through. And, I'm not into people selling stuff, and I'm actually not even into people speaking here unless they're interested in what we're doing here, unless they want to participate and support it, because there's so many good, kind, quality people already on the screen, that to bring somebody in who has never seen a show, doesn't know anybody here, but just thinks they can walk in and here's what I got. And, it's probably more salesy, I had a guy who I had a call with later today, and he's a veteran of LinkedIn. And I went to confirm it today. He said, oh, it's my wife's anniversary. It's our anniversary tonight. I won't be able to make it. I'm thinking, well, when did you find this out? Did you get married yesterday? It's cool because it's like, well, you saved me the conversation of getting to know who you are, again, by what you do, and, if you can laugh, and I think that's one of the tools that no matter what situation you're in, if you can laugh at it, the sting goes away. I was talking with my wife last night. She's into a lot of coaches and personal development stuff. And in one of her conferences or seminars or whatever you want to call it, they said the first thing you do is you accept something and you understand here's what it is. And the next thing, you get curious about it. And the third step is laugh at it. And by the fourth step and the fifth step, you're kind of numb to it, right? I'll give you another example. When my daughter, who was about 3 years old, all of a sudden she decided she would just start swearing.
Oh my God.
At 3?
And she just said some unnecessary words. And my wife said, well, that's interesting. Why don't you keep doing it for like a minute? Keep coming up with swear words. And she ran out of steam in 45 seconds, and exhausted herself. And she never swore again, I don't think, at least not until she was older. It was just funny when you let people run, they can run out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stop them. You can encourage them to get it all out of their system, and then ask, what was this all about?
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking back, what it was about is she was going to try and scare us or shock us, and it never happened. We encouraged her to do more of it, and then there was no purpose to it, so a lot of times you can get involved, like I say, by asking questions, by letting people share more. Charles is blushing because of all the admiration and love that we're giving him. And you know what's so great about Charles? He'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
People
Awesome.
just don't come and go. They keep coming back, and they keep coming back with more and better. And that's why when Jason comes on, or Gretchen or Jenny, and they're telling me they're manifesting everything they could want because they're creating the opportunity. And in most cases, people denied people the opportunity, right? So all things being equal, that's cool. But when you can get a tailwind that can elevate you and really project you for who you really are, people love that.
Mm-hmm.
They might come for what you're saying, but they stay because of you, or they leave because of you. And that's why we always got to be better, because people are looking for the same improvement in you as you're looking for in them, right? If everybody's climbing, they got to keep climbing, and I think that's key. Jason, any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you more for shout outs. So Lindsay Dowd, she's one of my clients whose shows I produce, Heartbeat for Hire. Definitely check that out. She's been such a blessing to me. I can't even, begin to tell you how much of a blessing she's been. So yeah, definitely do that, as well as Alyssa Southall. She has a wonderful show too, All People Podcast, as well as if you're looking for podcasts to listen to, definitely listen to that, Heartbeat for Hire. What else can I tell you about people in my community? Anybody that I tag, including Kelly, Christy, and everybody who I told on the post from this morning, definitely connect to all of those people. Just go to Jason Wilson, and you'll see Donald's post. Just connect to all of those people.
Yeah, and that's just a friendly reminder too. Anyone that's in the chat, following this call, definitely go to the replay if you haven't caught up on here, and go ahead and connect, because that is part of this. We all are here. I mean, LinkedIn is a business platform. We're just putting our spin on it to support community. And Jason, you saying that about how these people make such a difference in our life. You never know when you're going to meet that person. And they can be here. And, so don't be afraid to connect. Go connect, have a conversation. And I know I've said this before too. Anyone that I've had a Zoom call with has added value in some way to my life. It's not been one where I go, God, that's 30 minutes I can't get back. Although in Jason's case, I think we talked for like 2 hours. But there's true value, and because the walls are down and there's no agenda. Like, that's the magic, I think, is there's zero agenda. Hey, I just want to know, what do you do, and how can I help you? Is there any connection that I can introduce you to, or if there's something you come across that you need? Like, people here truly want to help each other. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, right, Don?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even what Dean said, I've not had one person back channel me and try to sell me something. It feels good to let down your defenses, not have to worry about feeling uncomfortable.
Yes.
Kim says, Kelly, I appreciate your transparency and truth because it's there. You know, it's not like someone went out of their way. It's just who they are, how they are, and who they like to be. You know, you always want to be in a better place, a nicer place, a happier place with happier people. It's contagious. And after a while, you forget about your worries. You know, other people can crowd you out of yourself. And that's where you want to be, right? Thinking about someone else, helping someone else, not worrying about yourself, not thinking about your situation, not thinking about your past, not worrying about your future, and that's where we talk about breathing. That's where we talk about just finding your center, taking a walk, listen to music. I mean, people take better care of their cars than they take care of themselves in a lot of cases, right? They're so worried about polishing it, keeping it up and blah, blah, blah. And it's a car.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more story. I shouldn't tell so many stories, but anyways, we never believed in new cars. So we would drive cars until they weren't very good. So I had a 12-year-old car and my wife had a 12-year-old car. And we've always been kind of practical. So it was time we both got new cars. And I got a new Honda. And I said, I'm going to wash this every week and take care of it. And I got a call from Ann one night, says, hey, I got to tell you before you come home, just be patient. Don't overreact. And I hardly ever do. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, you'll find out. So anyways, garbage day, and my son, who was like 12, and his buddy next door took the recycling and took the plastic and just scraped the whole hood. And all the paint was missing, and it was just a mess. And it was like this new car, and I was so excited to take care of it and have it. And, I'm lucky she shared that with me, because when I saw it, I said, well, the first thing to do is don't do nothing. Because whatever you say or do is going to be remembered for eternity. So anyways, I said, let me, and my son was like a little anxious, and what I came back with? I said, it's only a car. Why did I ever think it was more than that? I said, I'm not happy about it, but I understand you didn't intend it. It was accidental. And now I won't have to worry about washing it every week, because now it's just a car again, so in a way, you kind of helped me out. So, I guess, Jason, a lot of it is perspective.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is people waiting for you to come back with something they expect and get so surprised with the unexpected.
I have something to share real quick. I was on a panel of men a couple of weeks ago, and the subject was vulnerability. How is it, or when is it that to show vulnerability in your relationships? It could be in business. It could be in your personal relationships, maybe with your wife, husband, boyfriend, or girlfriend. And one of the ladies said, I don't want to be in a situation where I show vulnerability to someone and I get hurt. When is it that I should be aware of when to use or when to show my vulnerability with someone? And my answer was the following. I said, well, if your intention is love, connection, and goodwill towards someone, that's what you're going to attract from the other person. But if you go into that situation with fear, though, you're going to attract the thing that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, this person is going to scam you. They're going to show up at your house at 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, something terrible is going to happen.
Yes.
So,
it's all about mindset, right? I mean, we've talked about this a bit before. If we go into a situation thinking like it's gonna be terrible, or I'm gonna pull every piece of information to confirm that belief. But if I go in and truly being vulnerable, how many times has anyone see someone be vulnerable and go, wow, that was super weird, or what a weirdo. You're like, wow, that was beautiful. How awesome that they just shared that, because you can feel it. And but for some people, it's hard to do. Like, it's like you got to practice to be vulnerable because of the fear of being hurt. And staying in that fear of being hurt, you're hurting yourself because you're not allowing yourself to share your love. And that does cause you hurt, even though you don't think it does. It does.
Well, I think too, what I've learned is the stronger you are on the inside, the more vulnerable you could be on the outside, because you have another place you can go if you need to, right? I mean, I don't look for conflict. I try to avoid it. I try to build bridges, not walls. I try to walk away from situations instead of engaging them, and if there's no future to them. But I also know when the bell rings, I answer it, right? Whenever I have to do something, I'll do it. Whether I like it or not, it's not about liking. It's about being who you are and standing up for yourself when you need to, because at the end of the day, you're the only person you come home to, right?
Yeah.
And if you're happy with what you did and who you are, you got another good start tomorrow, right? But if you're dragging yesterday's baggage and legacy into tomorrow, how fair is it to the tomorrow, to you and the person you're going to be sharing it with? Right? That's why people take care of themselves, so people won't have to. And the other thing is they model it, right? It's do as I do, not as I say. And I think people want to see that you live your truth, you share your truth, or you reveal your real truth. One of the three is going to happen. and it will. And be happy, because it's so much better to have a present in a box and have a time to open it and celebrate it, right? And in life, you have so many presents, like Jason, like Charles. I mean, you'll run out of lifetime before you run out of opportunities here. And this is just what we're starting. The idea to this is to have people adopt it, duplicate it. And that's what it'll make it more important and bigger, not how loud can we talk. And the guests that are coming on are getting so incredible because they're supporting the show first, right? They're not bringing 1 million followers and say, I want to speak to your group, because the group isn't significant compared to what they already have. What they want to do is learn for themselves, right? They want that experience for themselves. So they have given up, in a sense, saying what I have to say is more important than what you're saying already. But what you're saying already is I'll support that, right? And there's so many people I've met that are passive on LinkedIn, but powerful, right? They're retired to a point. They're really not interested in engaging, but they'll comment, they'll refer, they'll share. That's an opportunity. When someone's ready to turn the baton over, they want to give it to somebody who's worthy of what they built, and that's where you'll find mentors on LinkedIn. It's, can you carry on their work with them, for them, by them? And how much of that can you absorb? So in a sense, it's like when you register for classes in college, how many classes can you take? It's not how many classes are there. It's what can you absorb. And then one big important thing is balance. I know Jason has a full life and responsibilities, and you can name everybody, is you don't want to hurt something to help something, right? You want to build value all around. And when the people around you, your family, and I consider this my second family, in some cases, not in some cases, almost every day, I spend more time with all of you than I spend with my own, right? Because somehow they became very self-sufficient. Actually, my daughter and kids and her husband are in Vegas for 4 days. I'm batching it because my wife's babysitting our 3 granddogs over at her house. So now I don't have to worry about time anymore. But yeah, this is great. Mike is here. I haven't seen Mike very much. Well, I'm not a bot, and I understand Anna, at the max joiner count in the live window I've seen so far was 16. What is the number of max commenters that answers it? I don't know about those numbers, but usually, which didn't happen, and it's a good question, Mike, is when I started, like I say, it was me doing 8 minutes and getting nothing, and that's how it had to start. And then it got up to 20, 30 minutes worth of, let's say, show time. Now, yesterday was 1,000 minutes. So there was 16 hours of viewing time right when it got over, and then there's more viewing time. The visibility is going up 200% in 28 days. So from 2,000 to 6,000. Wow. And a lot of it's because of what I'm doing. And I think to Jason's thing, I so feel that if people knew how to do LinkedIn better, they'd be doing so much better, because this is for mindset, this is for attitude, this is for getting stronger internally. But without knowing best practices, or more importantly, forget about best practice because you can get that anywhere, is coming up with a system that can generate the audience that's relevant and important to you, that every message gets 3 times the reach to relevant people. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to create something like that, where people for an hour or 2 or whatever can learn it. And then the next step that me and Kelly were talking about is we have so much content, even on a show like this, that if you could create 1 2-minute snippets, you'd have a content calendar for 60 days, and it keeps getting more, right? So this is just getting started, because I know what is, I know what can be, and I know what we have here to achieve that. And we're stacked with talent. We really are. And I mean, if that's all we have, it'd be more than enough. And I've talked to people. There's more Charleses out there. There's more Jasons out there. There's more me out there. The idea is having an open door that's inclusive for everybody, that's respectful of everybody. And that's a small bar to have to get over. Can you show respect for an hour, and can you share? What's your thoughts, Kelly?
I mean, yeah. It's just, yes. Why this is not a magical recipe that we've put together. Truthfully, it's just organically happened this way. And I mean, the mutual respect, the transparency, the connection. I mean, all of those things that have seemed so simple, and yet they're not. Because we've talked about this off camera quite often. I've not really seen any other LinkedIn lives where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tune into that again. Because they're very scripted and very produced. And I'm not saying there's not a place and space for that, because there is. But I feel like people are just really wanting more reality. Reality shows aren't real. This is actually real. And I think people like that. And to be able to participate in it, it's not something that's out of their reach. They're in the chat. You can be on here. Open mic gives people an opportunity to be able to get up here and give it a whirl. And anyone that has done it has been like, I wasn't anything like what I thought. It is that whole, I'm just in the living room having a conversation with my cup of coffee and my friends.
Well, I think, anytime something's a surprise, it gives you something to look forward to. Yeah. Right. And I never know what we're going to talk about. I never know what anybody's situation is going to be. And that's the fun of it, is we all learn exactly the same thing at the same time from so many people. Jason, what's your thoughts on community support?
Well, just to piggyback off of what you guys said about the snippets, I do that for my clients. I'll put like a 30-second to a minute snippet of the podcast episode, just to give somebody some expectation of what to expect from that episode. I think if you guys did that, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that would get people on their way. And I kind of look at the show as a runway. You're here to be here as long as it takes to get up and soar, right? And come back and help other people with what you learned, and then give people a chance to get on the runway themselves, right? So the more we can launch, the more people that can get into orbit that is everywhere they want it to be, and deal with a tailwind instead of a headwind, to deal with support, because everything's built in. The show's here every day. The people are here every day. The people who are here every day are getting better every day. So the next day, you're going to see better people than the day before. And now the people who are reaching out to Jason or Charles or whoever, these people have always been here. You just never had visibility and access to them. Right. So this, LinkedIn provides the directory. The key is why not see people in action before you have to connect? That's one more variable that wasn't there before. The variable was always see somebody that aligns with you, you want to talk to, reach out, make a connection, reach out, make a Zoom call. Okay, now you're talking. Where is it going to lead? Usually it's like, good to know you if I ever need blah, 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 or if I'm in the neighborhood, I'll stop by. But this is like, hey, be on my show, right? Show yourself, be yourself, and not only that, learn how to be a better self than you were when you came here. It's like going to the beauty shop, right? Why not be everything that you always want yourself to be and know you're capable of? That's the thing. It's one thing about dreaming about something that's never going to happen, right? But it's also about taking dreams that should have happened and for some reason didn't, and now can be dreamed again. When someone told you you weren't good enough, somebody told you weren't smart enough or strong enough or something, and you believed them, or you believed them enough to say, okay, I'm not. And then one day you say, well, if they're gone, maybe their influence on me should be gone too. And maybe I'll take that vote back and replace it with my vote. And so, like Kelle says, be ridiculous once in a while. Laugh at yourself, dance in the rain. I mean, what's it going to hurt, right? But it'll surprise you, and you'll say, I'm capable of all kinds of crazy stuff if I want it to be. Crazy in a good way. Yeah. So, I see Mike, who's I was answering regarding the comments look automated. Well, I can assure you there's no automation taking place here.
No.
And numbers mean very little. I'll say one thing: we've already got 115 comments, and we're not off the show. And that's before we start commenting, because I think, after what Charles did, it's a responsibility. If people reach out and say something to you, you should say something back to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Sure. Because that's the proof of, hey, we're real, but we also want you. It's not we just want you for what you can bring. We want you as a person to come in, and allow yourself to experience what it is. And at that point, give yourself a chance to decide next day. So many people have had to make big decisions long-term, sometimes with financial commitment. Yeah. But when you can slow it down and say, take it one day at a time, one show at a time, you can even watch these shows and never show up on a show if you want a little bit more incognito, let's say. So I'll just go through any last comments. With that said, Jason, final thoughts. It was great to have you. I mean, you really bring so much joy and value. We're definitely going to have you back. What's your thoughts?
Thank you so much. My thought is the following. Don't be afraid to go after your dreams and anything that you have scheduled goal-wise this year, especially if it's something dealing with public speaking, or maybe something that you haven't tried, like a LinkedIn Live. Don't let fear get in the way of stopping you from doing that, because like Kelle said, once you get on here, I mean, it's such a fun, wonderful experience that when you finish, you say, why didn't I do that before? Don't let that stop you.
Well, that's great. And that's so true. And Kelle?
Yeah, I agree. 100%, of course. And I'm so grateful that I got to spend some time with you today, Jason, and everybody that's here. I'm so grateful for the continued opportunity to be here and share with everyone. And just to finalize on Jason's go live your dreams, surround yourself with people who want you to achieve those dreams. People who want you to shine brighter, not people who want to pull you down and hold you. Move on and and let your light shine as bright as it can be, and the people around you will bask in the sunshine with you. So that's my final thoughts. You, Don?
I think those are great final thoughts. I'm just so thrilled to know how much happiness, hope, courage we can bring people, at least for the day. Take what you have, enjoy for the day, come back and get another slice of it tomorrow.
Yes.
And know that it's working for a lot of people here. And it's not just making them happy, it's making them successful, which makes them happier. Success can grow just like the opposite can grow. You can spiral upward, and not have a lot of control and just find every day is a magic carpet ride with people you never thought you'd ever meet, let alone be co-mingled with. To be at everybody's level together, to be able to reach out and someone says, I love hearing from you, Kelle, versus, hey, what do you want? Or what do you got to sell? Or what, everybody's like, what do you need? Versus, hey, I got a feeling you're bringing me a present today, and the present is yourself.
Yep.
And you can unwrap it for people, and prepare for that excitement. And, if people got excited by simple things, easy things, available things, that's a good foundation, right? Too many people, it's all or nothing. If I don't get 200 grand this year, I'm a miserable person, or if I don't do this. Versus, hey, that was the best ice cream I tasted in a week. If you take a moment to realize what's around you, and just living is a blessing. Just having another day here, to take that for granted, that's almost embarrassing in itself. And what do you do with your day? And what me and Charles talked the other day is leave the log pile bigger than you found it. Right? It isn't hard. Leave people better than you find them, because you can, and you can, and it works for them. And now you're disingenuous when you don't. Right? You see a hungry person and you've got food and you walk by them. How proud can you be? Right? And what good is that food anyways now? So you diminish all of that versus brighten it up. And I always tell people, and I'll close with this, you can't hide a beautiful smile, a heartfelt laugh. People have seen it. They've been around that long enough, and they know it. And they miss it because most of it came from people that are either no longer in their life or not accessible. And if you can supplant that with people that say, boy, every time I see Charles, I get better. And, there is something to the placebo effect. If you keep believing that every time you see Jason or Charles, you'll get better just for that.
Right.
Let alone whatever else it is. And, now my new headline is get better. That's the first two words, and they're in caps on the post. It used to be better, but, that's a stretch. Get better. Everybody can get a little bit better. So anyways, we'll end it here, or we'll already be in tomorrow's show with more people. By the way, tomorrow, we've got Christine and Roxanne here. I like these three-way co-host type calls because more people, more ideas, and it gives each one of us a chance to think a little bit more about what we're about to say. So thank you again. Love you all, and we'll be back tomorrow
Take
with
care.
as much joy and value as possible. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kelle.
You're welcome.